We are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light of God.
Welcome to this episode number 7 in a series entitled Traveling with Pilgrims of Hope. I am Father Ron Will, coming to you from Precious Blood Renewal Center in Liberty, Missouri. Pope Francis declared the year 2025 as a Jubilee Year with the theme, A Year of Hope. Our mission statement at Precious Blood Renewal Center states, "We are a safe and sacred place, offering healing and hope, renewal and reconciliation for all people." So, our mission statement and Pope Francis's encyclical dovetail with each other. We are committed to offering hope, which includes naming experiences of hope during a lot of darkness in our world today. This series, Traveling with Pilgrims of Hope, introduces us to individuals who have experienced hope and who are striving to bring hope to others. Pope Francis wrote an encyclical last October entitled, "He Loved Us." In it, he asks, "Do I have a heart?" When I look at people who are struggling, who are facing difficult situations, is my heart moved with compassion, or do I look the other way? It seems like a lot of present-day government leaders have shriveled hearts, and their citizens follow their example. In this series, we are trying to expand hearts by sharing stories about people with expanded hearts. One group of people who struggle with hope are juveniles who experience incarceration or who live with gang violence. I have invited Father Denny Kinderman, who is a missionary of the Precious Blood, to have a conversation with us today so that he can share some of his own experiences in working on the south side of Chicago. I believe that the rest of us can gain insights into how we can become pilgrims of hope ourselves. Thank you, Father Denny, for joining us today. Can you take a minute to, first of all, just give us an overview of the ministry that you've been doing several years now in Chicago, and how did you get started in that?
First, I want to thank you, Father Ron, for this invitation. It's a great opportunity to share with everyone during this year of being pilgrims of hope that get an opportunity to share what we do here. We began this ministry of reconciliation almost 23 years ago. And it kind of stemmed from the fact that as missionaries of the Precious Blood, the charism of renewal and reconciliation is what we're mainly about. And we thought, some of us got together and thought, what would it look like if we just focused on reconciliation, not within the parish context, so we can just fully see what reconciliation can look like. And so we also thought that we need to come to a place in need of reconciliation. So we came to Chicago, south side of Chicago, in a neighborhood that's impacted with violence, poverty, and lack of resources, a place where the police aren't always seen as helpful, a place where the schools aren't as good as they need to be. So we have a center here, and at that center we try to address the needs of the people here. So we came here, and our mission states that we offer radical hospitality. It means everyone's welcome. We not only welcome whoever comes in, but even the youth we are working with, if they do something that causes us to ask them to not come around until we can do a circle and get them reinstated, we know that they're still welcome, but sometimes we hold them accountable for their actions. We offer hospitality, healing, and hope. Just a few years ago, we had a fundraiser where we called it Hope for the Future Generations. So we work with youth and adults, with mothers and families, with men and women who are impacted by the criminal justice system. People coming out of prison, we try to offer them wraparound services to help them get on their feet. The center is seen as a place of safety. Visitors will walk into our center sometimes and say they just feel a kind of sense of peace. The neighborhood we live in, while it's full of violence, individuals in the neighborhood are friendly people. They just know that they can't always trust people they don't know, and so sometimes they don't come across as seeming all that friendly, but they are. Here we offer especially for the mothers whose sons or family members have been murdered or whose family members are incarcerated. We offer opportunities for peace circles. For everyone who comes with whatever needs they have, we offer counseling and therapy. We accompany people in their needs, like we'll go to court. Just a few days ago, we were in the courtroom. It's interesting when we think of the courtroom and how this past Sunday we were reflecting on the Good Samaritan, and you know, the neighbor is the one who reaches out to the one in need. And too often in the courtroom, you don't see that friendly reaching out. You see divisions, either the one side or the other side, and through that division, justice is formed. Justice really is love lived in public. What better hope is there for the future than for us to, in public places, make sure we are living love for one another? That's the kind of justice that heals and that brings together the two sides, so that there aren't two sides, but there's a kind of unity, the kind of thing we express in Eucharistic prayer when we say we all may be one through the Holy Spirit, the kind of prayer that Jesus had, that we may all be one. Each day here at the center is like, I don't know if there is a typical day. Each day has its own requests, and a lot of things pop up at the last minute. I had a request to do something just minutes before this podcast. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. Yesterday morning, it was around 8 o'clock in the morning, I got a text from a young man who said, Father Denny, my baby daughter needs milk, so what do? You help. People need hope. You can't constantly be just looking at your own busy life and not be ready to be that neighbor to someone who needs help. And so we see ourselves as agents of hope. All of us here at the Precious Blood Center of Reconciliation, that those who are in need of help, we reach out to them. They're not necessarily hoping for more, they're hoping for something better. Sometimes people who have what they need will hope for more. But here it's more like people are just hoping for something better, something really needed. When I ask the youth that I visit in the juvenile detention center, where can they get the help they need once they're released and they're back home? Almost all of them say, well, I'll get my help from my mother. There are a lot of fatherless children who are locked up. Almost every kid I visit in our juvenile detention center here in Chicago is African American or Hispanic. There isn't much help in the neighborhoods. Programs that can help them stay in school, programs that help them find a job. And sometimes the stories that I hear are like, you just pray for hope for them. Sometimes I just say, Lord, just cover them with the precious blood, our source of hope. Children in the juvenile detention center are in neighborhoods where they don't feel safe. And a lot of times that's why they carry a gun. And if they get caught carrying a gun, which they almost always do, then they end up in the juvenile detention center. And so I try to convince them that the way to stay safe is to try and avoid being out at times when you know that it's not safe to be out. But carrying a gun just isn't going to work. Last night, I was visiting a youth who said he got locked up because he was in an Uber ride, and so he did a shared Uber ride because it's cheaper. And after he was in the car, then they picked up the second person. So these two young black men are sitting in the back seat with the white driver. The police drive by and stop them. They didn't have their seatbelts on. But in the process, then, they made them get out of the car. Wouldn't you know, the second person who got in the car, unbeknownst to the first person, had a gun. And so the person I was talking to was arrested simply because he was in a car with a gun. It just boggles my mind sometimes how our youth have to face these kinds of things. And yet they kind of take it in stride. It's almost like they kind of know they're going to be suspect, and that kind of thing happens. So this young man told me, he said, "Oh, don't worry, Father Denny. I know I won't get in trouble because they won't be able to say the gun was mine. I don't have my fingerprints on it. I didn't know the person who had the gun," and so forth. So they always have hope.
That's interesting.
Hope?
They have hope. You somehow you can maybe help them get in touch with the hope by just to be accompanying them, companioning them.
Yeah, what I try to do is let them know that that's really why I come to the detention center to visit with them, and some of them that we do know, that we do provide for them when they get out. Problem is, Chicago is so big that most of the youth I visit are not in our area. We're not able to really offer them services once they get out. But we try to connect them to other places that we know that offer services. So, we try to sustain them in their hope. And actually, they sustain me in my hope. Hope is something that
How do they sustain you in hope?
There's a scene in or a song or sing in the musical Jesus Christ Superstar where everybody's calling out to Jesus, heal me for this, do that. And Jesus cries out, there are too many, and it's easy to get to that point. I'll come home sometime from juvenile detention center. I always take a little book and I tell them if they want, I'll put their name in here and their court date. I'll be praying for them, and they all want it. So sometimes I come back and I got like 20 names that I'm supposed to be praying for. Besides the people that I work with in the center, but I see in them the kind of hope that they don't, um, it doesn't overwhelm them. It's like, it reminds me, there's a, uh, in Romans 12:12, it says something about being patient during your time of tribulation. You know, it's like hope can give you, can take away the anxiety. Hope can
Mm.
keep you patient, even while you're going through the unknown and the tribulation. And I see it in them, and that kind of passes it on to me. And I just have to admit that, you know, hey, I can only do so much. I can't do it all. I have to take care of myself, so I can offer what I can offer. So self-help and self-care and prayer and our precious blood spirituality is what really helps me to continue to face all the difficulties that come my way. It's hope, um, in God and not in myself that keeps me going, that makes it possible for me to wake up each morning excited and thrilled to be about the ministry that I've been called to.
Mm.
I
So
see,
even though it's draining, you don't, you still are excited about getting up the next day and ministering to more people.
as a matter of fact, when I go to the juvenile detention center, it's at 5 o'clock in the evening. And sometimes it's been after I've had a pretty full day. And I'm thinking like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But I go in and I'm there for 3 hours. And when I come out, I'm energized.
Mm.
I know it's like, I say it's the power of the precious blood that
Uh-huh.
saw me through and that got me through. It's not about me. It's about what God does and how God uses us when we're just willing to say, okay, here I am. What can I do? You know. And I see it again. Like there's a mother whose son. I was visiting her one son in the hospital who had been shot in the mouth and needed extensive operations and repairs and was on a liquid diet, of course, and intravenous feeding. And not only that son, but she has another son at home who's paralyzed because he had been shot in the back, in the spine. Another son who had been shot, but he gets around okay. And there she is, you know, visiting her third son that's been shot in the hospital. And
Mm.
able to talk and smile and pray together. And it's like, um, if she can go through all that, why can't I spend a few hours with kids in the juvenile detention center, you know, or with the kids I have to work with, the kids I go to court for, you know? It's like seeing our precious blood spirituality from the perspective of the victim. You know, sometimes I think we think we're the helpers, we're the ones who are on top of the situation. But we can appreciate the power of the blood, I think, when we see ourselves from the viewpoint of the victim, to know that, hey, I too am suffering because of taking on the suffering of others. You know, the suffering is like a ripple effect that goes through the whole community and calls us to be there for one another. Youth
What you,
always will say, well, I believe that God has a plan for me. They often say, you know, Father Denny, I'm thinking like, if I wouldn't be in here, I might be out there and get killed. Who knows, you know? So they
what
give
you were
me,
describing reminds me of another image that we have in our precious blood spirituality of a living chalice. You are called to be a living chalice, not just to sit there and look pretty, but to be filled with the blood of Christ, the love of Christ, and not just to hold it, but to pour it out
right.
for you, individuals in juvenile detention and in the neighborhood, etc., but then to be refilled
Mhm,
so that you can be poured out again. So
mhm,
you are an agent of God's love in your ministry.
mhm. I one of the ways I'm refilled is like I help out at a African American parish on the south side of Chicago, and some Sundays when I'm not involved, I just go and attend liturgy there, and there's just something about the spirituality there, the songs, the hymns, the
Mm.
preaching, the welcome and love of the people that and I often take some of the kids with me. Um, one kid said, "Oh, Father Denny, I want you to take me to church with you." So I said, "Okay." So, but before I could do that, I had to go buy him a suit and buy him a shirt and tie and shoes, and said, "Okay, well, whatever it takes." But I think it really is important. And you know, at our recent assembly, when we had these talks on self care, I think it's really important that that image of being the chalice, that image of being receiving the gift received is a gift to give, and it's like
Mm.
if you see it that way, it's not so much like you're giving of yourself so much as you're giving of what has been given to you, and
Mhm.
that's that's the kind of hope that can always fill our hearts. The teachings of Jesus also, you know, Jesus didn't just teach by word, powerful as his word is. Jesus also then taught by action, by his deeds. And I often reflect on what in John's gospel, where Jesus says that, you know, he's going to be leaving, he's going to be going to the Father. So if we place our trust and we believe in him, we will be able to continue his ministry. And the way he says is that you will be even you will be able to do even greater things. And it's like, wow, you know, if Jesus says that, then we can do it. You know, we can be there for one another, no matter what it takes, because he's making it possible.
Mm.
So, also, what we read in Philippians, you know, that hey, I can do all things through Christ, who's the source of my hope. Um, it's an image and reflection of our spirituality that we need not fear anything. We need not hold back. Um, we just trust that even though we're not sure what the outcome will be, we go forward. That's what hope is all about. You know, it's like going forward into the future, not knowing what that is, but just trusting that it will be what it needs to be. Any number of the youth that we've worked with here, you know, like I said, I've been here 20 some years. So when I knew some kids at the beginning who were 14, 15 years old, uh, after they've grown up and gone on, you lose touch with them.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden they'll come back, you know, they're in their late 20s or 30s, they'll come back with their family and they got a good job. And then you kind of know what success can look like, you know,
Oh, that
because
must be really encouraging.
oh, it is, because otherwise, you know, you just really don't know. Because on the other hand, there are other youth then that you hear, like one kid I really worked with a lot with him and his family. And right now I think he's somewhere in Iowa, locked up in jail for something, you know, it's like, um, but I won't give up on him. I just keep him in my prayers. But um, one thing we do here too at Precious Blood Ministry, we really support one another. I think we don't see ourselves so much as doing a job, but we're really caught up in a ministry. It's like the the kind of thing that sustains us is that we help one another in showing appreciation. Every week when we have our staff meeting, it begins in a circle, and we start with a reflection, and then we do a check-in where everyone just really says where they're at. And sometimes, some people need some support, and we're there for them. It's like it really is. It's interesting because very few of us are Catholic, but among the 30 some staff and volunteers, there's a spiritual depth to it, and we have this group me kind of communication where we all stay in touch with each other, with photos and with encouragements, and often there are positive quotes and scripture quotes. In fact, sometimes you get kind of like, okay, well, this is enough, but I think that's how we continue to support one another. At one point, too, a year or so ago, 2 years ago, I think it was, we had Father Joe Nazzle come and do a day of retreat with all of us. We went away to a retreat center. And so we all speak of the precious blood spirituality, and it is viewed in a variety of ways, and yet it's always good, always comes out well.
Listening to you, I'm thinking of the song Companions on the Journey. You really accompany those youth incarcerated. You accompany the people in your neighborhood who are kind of suspicious, maybe of outsiders, suspicious because of schools not always being helpful, police not being helpful. And you are accompanying one another who work and volunteer at
Right.
your center. You are really companions on the journey.
One thing that where all of this begins is to know that that we're all part of the same family. And as Brian Stevenson says, we have to get proximate. And Pope Francis, in the past couple of years, said the same thing. You can't heal, you can't work things out from a distance. You have to get close. You have to come together. And so that's what hope offers, that somehow we don't see hope as like a policy we have to follow. Hope is that way for us to come closer to one another, to let goodness and accompaniment and healing seep into our personalities. So that's kind of like a way of being who we are here at Precious Blood Precious Blood Reconciliation. So we kind of came into the neighborhood empty-handed, not coming here and saying, oh, we got something we're going to bring you. It's more like, let's come and find out, God is already here. How are the people here in relationship with God, and how can we then kind of combine all of this and work together? And so it's a very much of a welcoming stance, and we are welcomed, we're respected. I think it's the only way it can really work, that we really do have to be companions on the journey. So from our local setting, we move on together. And it's interesting. Just last night when I was coming home from the juvenile detention center, it was about 9 o'clock in the evening, as I pulled up in front of the apartment where Father Kelly and I live, right across the street from the center. Right in front of the house, there were like 8 or 10 young black men. And I kind of said to myself, I wonder if I had one of my white friends who lives in the suburbs in the car with me, how would they have seen that, you know? But I knew some of them, so I just walked over, talked to them, shook their hands, asked if anything I can do for them, you know. It's like, I think that's the kind of thing you can do when you are close. When if somehow we could just all live together, I think it would just be nothing but a world of peace, you know. But somehow we just like to stay apart, and I don't know.
As long as we
So
stay apart or hold people at an arm's length,
yeah, I
we
know.
don't get to know them and we feel scared. But by getting close, knowing their names, you befriend them, they befriend
Yeah.
you. We
Mhm.
just like being with each other.
Yeah. Too often we're just too ready to put people in a box right away, categorize them. We're like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, the things that I find um, helpful here are what Thomas Aquinas says about hope. He says that hope is something it's attainable, but it's arduous is the word he used. You know, it's hard. You have to, or as Scott Peck tells us, you know, life is difficult, and it's like realizing that. I often tell the kids in juvenile detention, it's like, you know, there's going to be a day in the future. We don't know when that is, how far off, or how close it might be, or whatever. There's a day in the future where you're going to be free again. You're going to be able to get on with your life. But I said, right now is the hard part, the arduous part. Right now is the part where you can be preparing yourself for that day. It's the opportunity to um, see life as it really is and acknowledge it. Um, I think that's what our spirituality is all about. It's like seeing life as it really is and knowing that um, that's what we go through. You know, you have to sometimes sit back and look at what all you've been through. How many times have you been ill? How many tragedies have there been in your life and hazardous situations? Look at what all you've been through. You're still here, right? Um, so, what makes you think that God isn't going to be with you in the days that lie ahead?
Mm.
But
Mhm.
you also need to do your part as you see it unfold. Um, Part of some of the hazardous things that people go through is then what we're dealing with and having to extend that notion of hope even while they're in the midst of that arduous time. I got a phone call just last week from a mother who was so upset because her son became so angry. He went outside and busted the car windows of the neighbors. And so the mother had to go out and uh, tell the neighbors, don't have my son arrested, please. I'll pay for your whatever costs for your repairs and stuff. And so on my part, it was a blessing and opportunity just to listen to her on the phone for a long time, just to get all of that out of her system that
Mm.
she just needed to be listened to. And
Mhm.
um, those are the kind of things that we run into. Like I say, you never know at what time of the day or night something's going to come up, but it surely will. I have
Mhm.
another friend who I've been knowing him since I think he was 13. Now he's 30. Um, he has diabetes. He has seizures. He just has all kinds of problems, but he never gives up. He just keeps going.
Mm.
And for me to walk with him is a blessing, really is, because
Yes.
I learned so much from him. So I don't know if there's any further thoughts about. I mean, I could go on for days, but
Maybe you could go on, and we probably have to start drawing to a close our time together. But just maybe off the top of your head, for our listeners, uh, they're also called to be agents of hope. And if they haven't been doing much in that area, do you have any thoughts, suggestions? Where should they begin to be an agent of hope themselves?
I guess to realize that it's not like a strategy or a plan. It's like hope is something that has to come from deep within. So there is naturally the real need for prayer. Like I just said before, it's like if you each one of us take a look at our own life and look at what we've been through, and hey, you're here now, right? You know, so if you made it this far, who brought you through? And can you place your trust in the one who brought you this far, that he will continue to be with you in the future? The one who loved us so much that he sent his son to come and shed every drop of his blood that we might be saved, you know. Just place our trust in him, and knowing that the future won't necessarily bring what we're hoping for, but if we can set aside our own particular need and hope that the future brings what God wants for us, then we'll find our way. You know, it won't be clear, but gradually it'll unfold, and we'll make our way.
Jesus promised to walk with us no matter what kind of challenges we face. And what you just said is just stepping back and naming how he already has done that in my past history. And then realizing, yeah, I've gotten hope from the presence of God in my life, and maybe picks me up to be an agent of hope in somebody else's life today, this week, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for sharing with us, Father Denny. Thank you for your ministry that you're doing and bringing hope to your neighborhood and the juveniles and mothers of juveniles that you gather together, etc. Thank you for sharing and just being a pilgrim of hope and hopefully inspiring our listeners today. And I invite all of you who are listening to me to join me again next month in this continuing series as we travel with another Pilgrim of Hope.
We are walking, walking, we are walking, walking